I don't know. First of all, I want to thank you on behalf of our whole family for everyone that's here. And I don't know that I've ever had as daunting of a task as I feel like I have. Just because, how do you talk about the greatest man you ever met? Even when you lived in his house. And you saw him warts and all. And how do you eulogize somebody that was so huge? 15 minutes, and my dad passing away, I turned around and our house was filled. Our house was filled. It was full. And I mean neighbors that I haven't seen in 20 years and just showing up, they're there. Church members, people coming in from all around just to be there, and the house was full, and it's been continually full all these days. And looking around and immediately starting to just pour in messages from, not just from here, but I mean coast to coast, and people saying, man, he was I remember him from the military. I remember him from here. I remember him from there. And he was always such a bigger than life presence to everyone who knew him. And I have to confess, on behalf of our whole family, I'm pretty sure we knew we were coming in for a landing. When people would ask me, how's your dad? I said, I think we're coming in for a landing. I think we're coming in for a landing. And he said, I want to die surrounded by my family. Well, we made it to his birthday, and we had birthday cake. And we had birthday cake, and we sang happy birthday, and you know, here we are filled around and singing a song and everything else, and we knew he was not moving, and he had gotten immobile, and as a matter of fact, it was to such a place we were having to pick him up and carry him from bed to a chair, and he was even in a place where he couldn't sit in a chair, but he was still him. He was still talking and livid and nothing out of the way, and then on the day after his birthday, we were there and visiting and talking, and right after that, we went home. I told my mom, I said, I'm going to go home, and I was packing a bag, and I thought I need to stay tonight. I'm not sure. He's just getting, help move him around, because even though he lost weight, he was still not a small person at all in any way, shape, or form. And I'm just sitting there thinking, man, I'm just going to go spend the night, and we're coming in for a landing, but we're still pretty high up in altitude, and we get to his house in the afternoon and the evening, and the next thing we know, we turn around, and Pastor Bill and Connie are there, and my Uncle Buford and my Aunt Gwen are there, and we just go in the bedroom and we take communion. We said, hey, we're going to take communion, and we walk in that room, and he's setting up, he's eyes open, and when I walk in, before I even walk in, I'm saying, we're taking communion. He didn't ask again. He said, I'm praying. And he prayed, and he blessed our communion as a family as we're standing around the bed. And the next thing I know, I serve him communion. I put it on his tongue, and he can barely even chew it up and swallow it. And he swallows it. And we were all just standing around, and we sang a couple of songs. And he kind of laid his head back. And the next thing we know is he starts calling by name his grandkids to bless them by his bed. And I don't mean like alluding to, I mean full names, things completely. And he laid his head back, and this is all within just an hour and a half time period from communion serving to calling in the kids and everything else. And the next thing we know, we could tell that things are going on, and his breathing just starts slowing down. And there's no pain, there's no type of dementia. He's not going out of his mind. There's no crying, no tears at all, nothing at all. And then in the midst of all of this, right at the very end, I hear my father cry out from, and he reaches out. As he reaches out, he takes 2 steps in his bed, and he cries out. And I tell you, if he was speaking in tongues or a heavenly language or whatever it was, I sit there. And I watched my dad take his first 2 steps into heaven. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, he's reaching up and he's just saying that's it. Like it was done. And he's done. He's just done. He's done. And we're all sitting around eating. I called 911 and I remember calling the lady and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I've never been in this situation. I called the lady and I said, we've had somebody die. And she said, oh, what is it? I said, don't turn on the siren. He's not coming back. I mean, he has graduated. He's gone to the next stop. He's not coming back. He's not here. He left life to enter into real life. And when I sat there and I walk out, and I woke up the next morning after a long night with some tears and some conversations. And I thought, I just watched my dad, who my entire life is bigger than life, right? And he knew beyond a shadow of a doubt. He knew that he wasn't dying. He believed so incredibly powerfully in the simple message of the gospel. When Jesus said, whosoever would believe in me, they shall never by no means taste death. And buddy, when he read it, he said, okay, what am I afraid of? I'm just stepping into the next level and moving on. And I told Leah, I said, it's kind of amazing. And I look around and I said, I got nothing to say. I told Mom the other night, I said, I got no remorse. There's no woulda, coulda, shoulda. Everything was said. Everything was done. Everything happened. And I said, he absolutely, positively manhandled death. But it wasn't him. It was what it's called Wadmalaw Island. Huh? Angel tree. He said, I want to go show you a tree. I said, well, we got trees in Alabama. But let me tell you something. When we walked up to this tree, it was spectacular. It wouldn't fit in this room by any the breadth of it. It was maybe twice the size of this room. The branches extending out. And Lee and I are both just sitting there looking at it. I'm like, man, this thing is amazing. This is absolutely spectacular. And me being my father's son, I had no clue. I reached down and I grabbed a handful of acorns and I put them in my pocket because this tree's 400 years old or something, Why would I do that? And I remember looking at these acorns and I'm like, throw these things away, and I wouldn't. Just held on to them. See, this is why I'm saying I'm my father's son, because when I was a little boy, my dad was in the military, and I gave it to him in kindergarten. I gave it to my dad in kindergarten. You remember that? It was yellow. I gave it to my dad, and I said, Dad, I want you to have this. And during that time, Larry, y'all went around the world numerous times, mobilized for the first Gulf War, did all of this stuff, and he was continuing in the military. He was in the military for at least 15 more years before he retired. And then there was another 2 to 3 years before I moved to Ecuador as a full-time missionary. And when my dad came to Ecuador to visit me the very first time, when I had moved to Ecuador and said, this is where I'm going to make my home, this is where I'm going to minister. My dad shows up. And he pulls a little fuzzy yellow cotton ball out of his pocket. It's only got one eye. But he said, I never forgot you. And I had it with me. And that means incredible. Just this morning I woke up. I told Leah, I said, I woke up and I could not. It was just like it came rushing over me because I didn't know what I was going to say about my dad. And you know what I feel, and I think every one of us would say this is the way we felt about Jim Marbett. My dad was like that big giant oak tree. He was just stretched out over top of us. And he was a presence in our life that provided shade and protection from elements. And if you were his friend, brother, you knew you were his friend. And if he was your granddad and your pawpaw, guess what, buddy? You knew through it, you could come to Jim Marbett's door and he would be there. He'd be there. He'd be there. But I got to tell you something. That mighty oak has fallen. It's fallen. And there's a void in our lives and in our church. There's a void. And you know what the Lord spoke to me this morning? He said, you got two options. The void's not going away. The void's not going away. You've got two options. You can either stand there and you can curse the void, or you can fill it. Because you know what I found out underneath that giant oak tree? There's no mighty oaks growing underneath it. But when that mighty oak falls, that are willing to be recklessly abandoned to God, to friends, to family, to everything that matters. And I can't make a decision for you, but I'm going to tell you something. I know my dad well enough to know that you know what he wanted for every one of you? That you would continue to be better and grow. You can either curse the void or you can fill it. I'm going to fill it. It's how much I love my dad. I'm going to fill it. Thank you, Bill.